5 out of Autodidact, so he is 1 base behind, which is never a good situation that you want to be in. The harvester count is about even, only a 6 count different in Kinetic's favor. And if you look at the income, it is relatively even, so this game is really close for all the fighting and all of the trading armies. This game is a lot closer than you think it would be, despite the fact that Autodidact is 1 base down. He is running his Hellions around. He does know that this expansion exists, and he is on his way with these Blue Flame Hellions. I think he's kind of forgot that I think he didn't really realize that there would be anything to occupy the Blue Flames' time. He is not going to actually get very many workers. There are hardly any workers there, as there was no transfer. There are workers here at this expo, and there was 1 Blue Flame Hellion doing a nice little drop. Good control to save that Hellion, as I'm sure that Planetary Fortress was trying to deny. These 3 supply depots will not finish, and this orbital command will be forced to lift, and all of these SCVs are forced to auto-repair to try to save, and Kinetic is going to try to repeat earlier performance here, and he's just going to go ahead and straight up and snipe the Planetary Fortress. The army for Autodidact is still on the way. As I said earlier, it is much slower because you have to unsiege and resiege and make sure you have good positioning, and all of these workers are just backed in the corners, and they just have nowhere to go. So another huge victory as far as economy goes for Kinetic, denying a base and a lot of harvesters, and he looks like he's going to try to fight his way out and just take as many tanks with him as he can, but these tanks are just putting out so much damage. It's not going to do as much. He's not going to get as many tanks as he probably wants. But Autodidact is doing a very nice job of not overcommitting to. It's not cool. Doesn't make you cool, computer. Autodidact is doing a fantastic job of not overcommitting to the Vikings. He's making sure that he has just enough to maintain air superiority, but not enough to really cut into his tank and Hellion count. These Stim Marines and Marauders will snipe these tanks that are out of position here. Autodidact really not making sure that he has his army in siege, and he is forced to retreat, but the Marine Marauders could have picked off a few more, but they will not today. They have killed enough tanks, and all the tanks are going to be sieging back up here, and Kinetic is going to be getting another win for the siege tank count war. And there's just a huge Marine Marauder ball here that Autodidact is going to have a really hard time dealing with. He can't get enough tanks in siege to put out the hurt. He does have 1 right here, and he's got 1 backing it up, but Kinetic is just steamrolling the 1 as he finds them. There are enough Hellions to kind of slow the attack of the Marauders, even landing Vikings just to get stuff in the way, man, because you have to put things between these tanks, because stimmed Marauders eat tanks so bad. Oh man, they eat them. It's like tanks to stimmed Marauders, unprotected tanks to stimmed Marauders is like pudding. It's just delicious, and you almost can never get your fill, man. I personally can eat pudding all day. Pudding is fantastic. So, I mean, I can imagine these Marauders just really getting their fill of all these tanks all the time. Kinetic is doing a nice job making sure he's always got a force on the move, always got an army rallied out here to the middle. Autodidact also making sure that he has an army on the move. Each player just really trying to get as much out of their army as they can, but Autodidact is in a lot of trouble here. He's about 20 workers down, but he's only mining out of 2 bases. Or like only fully mining out of 2 bases, so he's going to try to make something happen here and try to deny either production or the mining operations here, and depending on the response from Kinetic, he might, but Kinetic has 2 full mining bases, so Autodidact is going to be in a lot of trouble as soon as those 2 run out. He really needs to secure some more income. There is no sign of any kind of response out of Kinetic for this attack here. It looks like he's just going to take his drop and do some damage in the main of his own. And Autodidact is forced to not deny these rocks, to just go ahead and land next to him and try to get something happen. Oh my goodness, that is good play by Autodidact, and to put a tank on the high ground, and Kinetic does not have vision of that. So that tank will slowly start to deny. Good catch to catch these SCVs that are transferring. These tanks down here have been wailing on this expo for a while now. They haven't actually denied it. Kinetic, realizing that there were SCVs transferring, that there was a base over here, and he will just completely deny this expo here, that's huge. Autodidact really needs money. Really badly. Denying this base won't be as strong because, I mean, it wasn't mining a lot to begin with. So Kinetic is still running out of. Oh, and there's even a Blue Flame Hellion back here that Kinetic has to pull all of his workers on. So Autodidact really trying to even the odds here. He did have a nice tank drop here to almost kill this planetary fortress. If he did deny that expo, it would have been huge, huge, huge. The worker count is a lot more even. Kinetic is really only mining out of this base. He hasn't set all these workers back, and if he doesn't repair this building, it will burn down, and he will be in a lot of pain. There are a few siege tanks here in the middle, but there are enough Marines and Marauders to deal with them. So Autodidact has a minor defeat there, as he did lose some workers. Kinetic just kind of scrapped at this base altogether, didn't even decide to save any of it. Not the planetary, not the barracks. He didn't care, man. He didn't care. He had other things to worry about. He will stem and catch a few Hellions out of position here, and wisely deciding to back out before he just gives his whole army to that tank positioning. And there are just so many Marines and Marauders everywhere. The workers over here finally back to work. A lot of them are really, really low. If Autodidact realizes that they're really low and just takes these Hellions and runs them over, he can definitely even up the income here, and by just frying a lot of workers. But as soon as this base runs out of minerals, or this base, Autodidact is going to be on his last leg here. He doesn't really have the ability to secure another expansion because Kinetic's army is just so much more mobile than his. He doesn't have a chance to really buckle down on an expo or move around to defend him. So he's got to this army right here has got to be the one, in my opinion. And he will siege up on the high ground. Kinetic has to be super careful. He is in range of all these tanks. That's a lot of tank fire coming down. He has run out of Hellions. Autodidact landing Vikings just to get more stuff in the way, and it's going to be a close one here. There's nothing left to defend these tanks, and they will clean up the rest of the army. Kinetic does have a small force over here on the right that he could use to deny. And it looks like all the tanks did unsiege. He will not be taking advantage of that. He's just going to back out. And 3 Hellions. Oh no. It's going to be a bloodbath. If they... whatever. They're on the wrong cliff. But Kinetic is going to stim. And oh no, that is not what Autodidact needs right now. He needed to keep all of these tanks alive, as those tanks are really... Those are the last tanks he's going to have for a long time. And Kinetic did finally just deny the rest of that army, so the tank count is going to slow to a near stop, I think, because Autodidact just does not have the money to support 5 factories anymore. He has plenty of gas, but he just doesn't have the minerals. There is 1 siege tank, and it is going to be slowly chipping away at this expo, but he really needs to just run these Hellions down here and just fry these workers. He really has to just go and focus on the workers, really even it up. He is behind... No, Autodidact is ahead. He's ahead workers, somehow. Let's take a look at how many workers each player has killed. 92 workers Autodidact has murdered, and 56 workers Kinetic has killed. So it is definitely a target all the workers if you can, and Kinetic is just going to drop on top of the siege tank and deny the siege tank and the Hellions, so a little bit of a misstep, in my opinion, by Autodidact to lose that small band of forces, but he will be frying a lot of workers here. The army for Kinetic is on the way, but it's really just, he will be denying these Hellions, but these Hellions will be getting a lot of kills. Actually, only like 2 each. But every worker counts, and Kinetic will have scouted the final expo attempt that Autodidact has made, and because he doesn't have an army, he's only got these 2 Hellions, and this 1 tank, his harassment over here is shut down, and this base will get dropped. Autodidact has no income left, despite the full mining operations of 2 full bases out of Kinetic. Autodidact is not. He's gonna have these 5 tanks, and these 5 tanks have to hold the line. And while Autodidact gets the rest of gets any kind of economy together, it looks like he will clean up this drop, and he will save this expo. This expo is kind of all Autodidact has left, and because Kinetic will be denying this one in the corner here. But the supply count is huge now, because Autodidact hasn't had an economy for a while. He's really been struggling to get his bases up, so he hasn't been producing as much. Wow, that was really annoying. I need to figure that out. Mech on this map is so hard, said Autodidact, and then he left. And I would agree with you, Mech on this map is very hard, because the map is just so huge that it's just not mobile enough. We saw Kinetic do a lot of cool drops to deny expos earlier in his army. You know, his army was over here, his army was over there, and despite just completely losing it to all those tanks, the fact that he denied those expos and continually denied those expos, and like sniping that 4th was so huge. It really evened up the playing field. And just making sure that Kinetic didn't lose this expo or this expo was also very vital to the success of this game for Kinetic. But that was a crazy map. I mean, it was kind of up in the air. If like one player had done more damage to the other a little sooner, it probably wouldn't have been this close. I mean, the only reason Autodidact couldn't finish it out is because he couldn't secure an expo. But if he would have gotten like 2 or 3 more expos down, this would have been an even longer game. So, man, that was crazy. But hopefully everything worked out as far as the recording goes. Hopefully I can get this uploaded to this site in a timely manner, and hopefully you are enjoying this game as much as I have. But I gotta go before I go over the time limit. So that is that, and hopefully I'll get some more games up soon. Oop, come on. Alt-tab.